All right, guys, welcome back to ZT Fully Loaded. It is Monday, October 9th. We have just finished watching Monday Night Football. Packers taking on the Raiders. I apologize, Raiders pulling off that victory. And then we have the Dodgers taking on the Diamondbacks. They're in the bottom of the seventh. Diamondbacks are up 4-2, trying to take a 2-0 commanding series lead. But today we're going to be going over our world of sports, our best news stories of the week, like we announced last week. Last week was our first episode of these. This will happen on a weekly basis. Like I said, I'm going to try to get out early in the weeks, and I think Mondays actually might be the best day for that, to be completely honest. It's a good opportunity to have all of football go final, get prepared, especially now that we're going to be having football on Tuesdays to start the new week, recap all of the football before it gets started. We have obviously MLB games going on. We're gonna have hockey season starting up tomorrow. So yeah, there's a lot to recap today, but I think the Monday nights or Sunday nights is gonna be working the best to run our world of sports weekly episodes. I apologize. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So again, October is the best month for sports. October is the best sports month of the year. In my personal opinion, you have college football, you have NFL, you have MLB, NHL starting, you have basketball at the end of the month. It's just a beautiful time to be alive. College basketball getting ready to get started up as well. College volleyball in full swing. It's just a great time. You still have international friendlies. You have the EPL. It's a great time. So let's go ahead and recap what we have going on today. So we're going to go over our college football week 6 recap. Then we're going to go over our NFL week 5 recap. Both seasons in full swing right now. Then we have our MLB playoff updates, our hockey season eve. So we'll go ahead and look at the games for tomorrow. And then we have the Paris Olympics. I want to go ahead and talk about just some names that are being announced that's making making the basketball team a little bit more hopeful than what we've seen in years past, and hopefully bringing home a gold. Of course, talking about the greatest gymnast alive, Simone Biles, and then fantasy performers of the week. So we'll go ahead and add this new segment, whether it's in college football, because you can play daily fantasy for college football. If you want to go ahead and talk about UFC, about an upset maybe. But this week we're strictly talk about NFL, and I'm sure you guys talk about a couple names that we'll be mentioning here in the fantasy performers of the week. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. We'll start with our week 6 recap. Usually we have a recap all on its own. Might as well include it now. So our week 6 recap, we'll start first with our picks. They'll go to the top 25. Or actually, we'll start with our picks. Then we'll do our winners and losers of the week. Then we'll run through the top 25 slate of games. Okay, guys? So with that being said, here is our college football week 6 picks, updates on futures. Unfortunately, we just didn't have that great of a week, especially with our game of the week, Texas minus 5.5. Texas drops that game, and let's go ahead and cover it now. You know what? No, we'll cover it on our winners and losers because they're in our winners and losers. So Texas drops that game. It was an electric game, a lot of emotions, a lot of mistakes, but a lot of amazing plays. Questionable decision makings. At the end of the day, it was the Red River rivalry. Everything that you could expect, trick plays, bang calls, reviews. It might have been like the longest first quarter I've ever seen. And then just a heartbreak for one team or the other. And unfortunately, this time it was for the Texas side, my side. And yeah, OU pulls off the victory. So Texas minus 5.5 does not hit. Alabama at Texas A&M. We'll talk about this in the winners and losers as well. But Alabama, like I said, they're just a better team. Actually, they're not the better team, and that's what's even more surprising, that I was so confident going into this game. A&M, and people sleep on this fact, has a top 5 roster. A&M has not been in the top 25 since week 1 or 2. If you are still defending Jimbo Fisher, there is something going on there. Like, he is not in year 1. He is not in year 2. He's not even in year 3 like Sark. He's in year 6, guys. He's had 4 full years. That means he's had pretty much 2 full recruiting cycles. And he hasn't been able to muster up anything, even to a New Year's Six bowl. Anything. I mean, this year alone, you're going to say you're improving. You're going to say that this year is a year for you to go take down Alabama, especially that the Texas took them down. Now you have them at home, and you're going to say that Texas win didn't mean anything because it's not the same old Alabama. It's the end of the dynasty, and here come other SEC teams like yourselves. You guys have been pouring money and money and money into the NIL, and this coach cannot get it done for you guys. It is concerning. It is sad. You guys are losers of the week for it, and we'll talk about it again. Alabama, congratulations. Jalen Milroe played a great game, well coached at the end of the day. Going into A&M is not an easy feat, and UT is going to start experiencing that again next year. We all know what that stadium is. It's very cult-like, and that's why it's very loud. At the end of the day, that wasn't even enough. The NIL dollars aren't enough. The student fan base isn't enough. All because you have the world's worst coach, because he got lucky 1 year with Jameis Winston. And you guys took that for granted and ran with it. And it sucks. It's sorry to see. Texas A&M, you guys are losers. You'll stay losers because you guys can't afford a buyout or don't want to do a buyout. I don't even know if maybe, I don't know, like what's going on there. But I think a buyout is necessary. Like, you guys are over and over again hyping yourselves up. You guys have a top 5 roster. You guys have my NIL money, and you guys can't pull it off. But congratulations to Alabama. Colorado at Arizona State. Colorado wins this game. Fortunately, wins it by 3. At the end, they had a chance to win it by 7. They let up a touchdown to tie it to Arizona State. Then they come down the field, and you already know how that story goes. We saw it with OU, we already know how that story goes. Colorado kicks it. They win by 3. We do not cover -4, unfortunately. Notre Dame at Louisville, under 54.5. This game, Notre Dame, I should add you guys to the losers of the week, and I probably will. But it goes under. Severely underperforming offenses was ugly game. And that's to be expected, except I expect the winner to be Notre Dame and not Louisville. Shout out to Louisville, defending your home ground, beating Notre Dame, who's a better team. You guys are just better coached. I think Marcus Freeman is trying to be a mistake at coach. And Notre Dame's going to have to live with it for a little while there. Vandy at Florida. Vandy doesn't cover, unfortunately. They lose by 24, not 18.5. So that was their last pick of the week. So some updates here. Clemson is now 2-2 in the conference. They did not look good. So don't think, oh, well, they got another win. That's great. No, they look terrible against Wake Forest. LSU wins a nail biter. They pull it out at the end, and it looks like a less competitive game. At the end of the day, it was very competitive. They should have lost that game. But they end up winning. They end up covering even. And they beat Missouri at Missouri. So shout out to LSU for doing that. Texas, as we said, they drop the game in the conference, probably their most important game against OU. They're 2-1. They still have a strong chance at the Big 12. Why is that? Because they will more than likely be facing OU again in the Big 12 title game. Oregon is now 3-0 in the conference, and then Michigan is 3-0 in the conference as well. Dominant performances again from each one of those. Sam Hartman again falls even lower this time. I actually didn't update these numbers, so I apologize. But he's probably not even I probably wouldn't even be able to find odds for him at this point. When you drop to Louisville, don't do anything in the passing. Through the passing, it was a pitiful performance by all of the Notre Dame offense. So yeah, he doesn't even deserve to be in the Heisman running anymore. And Caleb Williams puts on a show again, but USC is so bad at defense. So bad at defense. Questionable calls for Arizona that I don't know why you can't get more aggressive. You know you're the least talented team. Going into a first overtime, going into a second overtime. So maybe go for 2 when you know USC did not. Things of that nature, trying to be aggressive. They were up 17-0 to start this game. Then they go into overtime. And at that point in time, it's like, look, we're already lucky to be here. Why are we not going to take advantage? And they don't. And we can cover that a little bit later on as well. But yeah, just unfortunate there for Arizona. They couldn't pull off the upset. But I'm sure these Heisman odds have gotten even further because the only reason USC wins this game is because of this man right here, Caleb Williams. Was a one-man wrecking crew. Even that final 2-point conversion was all him, all creating, trying to make time for his receivers, and then running it himself because nobody can get open for him. Beginning of the year, season totals, we had Texas at over 9.5. This is still in good shape, even after that drop. We were thinking that Alabama was going to be that loss. Now we're recuperating that loss. At the end, I definitely think that they have a favorable schedule. They go to Houston after the bye week. I just don't see any more losses other than the championship game or the postseason, or possible losses, I should say. I don't even know if they lose that game. Possible losses. So yeah, I still think they cover this season, regular season total here. Stanford over 2.5 wins. They didn't play this week, so they're still 1-4. California under 5.5 wins. They lost this week against Oregon State, So now they're 3-3. So we're still in the green zone for now. They need 3 more wins to go ahead and eclipse that and lose that for us. Then Mississippi State picks up a win. It wasn't against an SEC team, guys. Don't get carried away. It was against a non-Power 5 conference team. I want to say it was Western Michigan. Mississippi State's able to pick up that victory. I'm hoping that's probably the last one for the season now that they'll have all SEC games left on their schedule, needing 4 more wins to break that for us. Then our beginning of the year playoff picture, we have Georgia, Michigan. Georgia finally looks good, and we'll talk about them shortly. Michigan still going on, and I want to say Georgia's maybe they're 5-0. Michigan is 6-0. Texas is 5-1 after that drop, but again, still have a strong chance. They do need some help now, though. I do say that Michigan, Ohio State, or Penn State need to drop a game in the 2 out of 3 need to drop a game in the regular season as well. And then you do need to obviously beat OU in the championship game. That's the way I say you get in, to be completely honest. You need Alabama to stay looking strong. Wyoming just beat Fresno State. They're looking strong. So there's a lot of good resume building still to go for Texas. Kansas is back in the top 25, so I still think they still have some hopes. They can control their own destiny and win out. At the end of the day, I do think that they need a little bit of help. Not much. I do think a one-loss Texas team, the way they played and the resume that they have currently and will have at the end of the year, if they win out, will be enough for a playoff. LSU, they're not going to be a playoff contender. They might still be an SEC contender. They're not a playoff contender. They're now 4-2. Outside looking in, again, Clemson looked absolutely terrible. Again, they escaped with a victory, but they're not a playoff contender. They're not an ACC contender. They're 4-2. Oregon is 5-0. They're still a playoff contender, looking very strong, but I'm banking on the Pac-12 to beat each other up. That's why I didn't even mention them. But I do think between Oregon, Utah, Washington, USC, that they all start beating one another. I mean, even throw UCLA in there with Dante Moore, Washington State in there. We saw UCLA and Washington State play a great game this week. That they all start beating each other up. Similarly to what we saw UCLA beat Washington State after Washington State beat Oregon State. That's going to be the pattern. I think that what happens, they're such a great conference, so competitive that they're going to knock each other out of playoff contention. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and go over our losers and winners of the week, guys. So, and I'll pull up the slate so this is a little bit easier to follow. So we'll go here. So my first winner of the week, it's Oklahoma. At the end of the day, they came in better coached. They came in with better discipline. They came in with a better game plan. I have to give it up to their defense. Was a lot stronger than I was expecting, to be completely honest with you guys, especially in that first half. They had a solid game plan to go ahead and be aggressive. Do not let up those screens that Sark loves to run. They shirred up the middle of the field, which we just kept running into and running into and running into. Just beating our head over a brick wall, is what it seemed like. But at the end of the day, Oklahoma was prepared, and you have to give props to them for that. Nothing that I'm happy about, nor ever want to do. At the end of the day, they took care of business. And at the end of the day, Texas was up, and it's gonna be like, oh, and Oklahoma came back to score at the end. Oklahoma deserved to win. Texas shot themselves in the foot. They had no game plan. They had no adjustments. I will say Quinn had a very rough start. At the end of the day, was pretty much perfect the rest of after the first quarter. So the last 3 quarters of the game was absolutely perfect. At the end of the day, Dylan Gabriel was good from beginning to end, and people are saying, oh, well, actually passing, he wasn't that great, but running, okay, at the end of the day, he played good. Like, he had 100 yards rushing, and he had about 300, if not exactly 300 yards passing. We can check that here. Like, give him props where props is due at the end of the day. 285, and then 113 yards rushing. Like, don't tell me, oh, he had an average game. 100 yards rushing from our quarterback and almost 300 yards passing. You got to give him props. He had a great game. So yeah, shout out to Oklahoma. You guys are winners this week. Georgia, I think Georgia finally had the game. I was very critical of them. You guys have heard it in weeks past in the recaps and the previews. They just haven't really shown much. Carson Beck only throws for 400 yards. That's the first showing of maybe being a competent elite quarterback that is worthy of a playoff spot. I have to give it out to Georgia. Yes, they were at home, but they were facing a very, very physical team that we just saw dominate Florida. And you thought maybe coming into Georgia that hasn't been on a roll, that hasn't really been tested, that they might be able to catch them off guard. And from the very get-go, Georgia was on their ass, for lack of better words. Pardon my language. But 14-0 at the end of the first. Then it turns into 34-7 at halftime. They had secured it by halftime. Like, it was a great, great performance. Carson Beck was awesome. Brock Bowers shows why he's the top tight end in the nation. So yeah, overall great performance by Georgia. I think well needed. There was still a lot of doubt going into them, and you would have hated to see them drop in the rankings because they haven't played anybody. I think this was their chance to play somebody, and they showed out why they should still be the number one contender for a championship. Then the other one I have is college football fans in general. It was a great week slate. I mean, you have Notre Dame, Louisville, which turned out to be better than what people thought. You have Oklahoma, Texas was a fantastic game. I know this one wasn't really great, but at the end of the day, it was a hyped up game. You had an awesome Pac-12 after dark, and that's our next winner actually. In Arizona, USC, Alabama, A&M was a great showdown. Oh, A&M, shit! I thought they had a really good roster, number 5 roster in the nation. But why aren't they ranked? It must be a glitch, right? Because number 5 roster, you should be ranked. But nonetheless, a good game there. Washington State at UCLA. This was like one of those like trap games. You see Washington State ranked after just beating Oregon State, and you're saying, how is an undefeated team going into UCLA who's not ranked an underdog? And you see why. Like right here, this is exactly why. Dante Moore looked awesome. UCLA is physical. They were able to score on that defense in the second half. That's all they needed there. So huge shout out to UCLA there. So yeah, it was a great week 6 slate. But what I was getting, LSU, Missouri. I don't know how I was going to skip over that. I didn't get to watch much of this game because I was watching Texas OU. At the end of the day, it looked awesome. All the scores coming in and in and in. And I wish I would have taken the over because that was one of my favorite bets. I just didn't do it because I was afraid of not knowing what Missouri's offense was. Now we know that they can score, even though LSU's defense doesn't really hold much value. And then you have this blunder that we'll talk about shortly in Miami versus Georgia Tech. So a lot of great games in week 6. However, this slate for week 7 is beautiful. My apologies here, guys. All right. So we have USC at Notre Dame at 5:30. So that's going to be an awesome evening matchup on NBC. I know Notre Dame just dropped the game, but at the end of the day, USC struggles on defense. If there's a if there's a defense that you can get right on as an offense, as Notre Dame, it's USC. Notre Dame doesn't need to get right on defense. USC hasn't faced a defense like Notre Dame. USC just counts on Caleb Williams, and you see it here in his numbers: 18 of 28, 1,822 yards passing. Who knows how much rushing? 22 touchdowns to 1 interception. They count on Caleb Williams to do everything. If you're able to put a spy on him, which Notre Dame has their linebackers possibly hold him down a little bit, you're not going to. And it's kind of like when you're playing great players in the NBA. You're not going to completely shut them down. But can you hold them? Can you minimize their effect? Can you make it run through somebody else? Can you make USC rely on their run game instead? Take away their passing, take away the scrambling ability. Who knows what that turns into? And at the end of the day, we know USC can't stop anybody. If they stop Notre Dame, at the end of the day, Marcus Freeman, you got to go, bro. If you can't score on USC, you got to go. So you have that game. The 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds don't really have competition. I guess Syracuse would probably be the bigger competition here, to be honest, and it shows in the spread. But you have Oregon, Washington. I really wish this was Pac-12 after dark. I would have loved this game to have been Pac-12 after dark. Oregon, number 8 Oregon at number 7 Washington. Just two electric teams. Awesome. And I've told you guys, I think Michael Penix should be is in the Heisman running. I hope he is the Heisman Trophy winner at the end. That team is absolutely explosive. They actually have a respectable defense. And then Oregon with Bo Nix. I don't know, who knows how many years Bo Nix has been. I mean, in college, at the end of the day, it shows why they're so successful. He has so much experience. I think it's going to be a great game here. And then here, Texas A&M and Tennessee, the battle of the mediocres, right? The battle of NIL money that doesn't go anywhere pretty much. So yeah, at the end of the day, that's going to be a good game. What else do we have here? Arizona put up a fight against Washington State. Arizona just seems like a scrappy team. Or Arizona put up a fight against USC. Now they're playing Washington State. Washington State coming off to that loss. And they both are just very scrappy teams. Arizona should be respected a little bit more. They have nice weapons on the outside. So that's going to be a good game to watch. Miami and their blunders is another one that we should watch out for as well. So again, and UCLA and Oregon State. We just saw UCLA now become ranked after beating Washington State. Now they're 18. Now they're facing number 15 Oregon State. I don't know. There's a lot of great games to watch. NC State Duke is not to be slept on either. So a lot of great games to watch. We still have Pac-12 after dark, not the greatest of games there, but at the end of the day, can't be mad at what we get here. So I think it's a great Week 7 slate. So we are winners for that. And then the last of our winners, Pac-12 after dark, guys. Pac-12 after dark, you can't complain. And it was USC at Arizona, double overtime game again. I just think Arizona needed to take a shot. You guys, as being the weaker of the teams, you just need to take a shot there, and they just did not, and they can't pull off the upset. We had Boise State come back from being down, I want to say it was like 20-0, 21-0. So that was awesome to see. It looks like the Dodgers are going to end up falling. They're down 4-2 in the eighth. They're about to challenge a play. Let's see. It's a close play, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be enough. I think they're going to end up going down 2-0 in the series. But yeah, there was some awesome games this week, and it was awesome to see. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and hop over to our losers of the week. And actually, one last winner, Jacksonville State. I know we talked about them when we were recording the first one. They're just the comeback kids. They are the James Madison of this year. Unfortunately, not going to be bowl eligible, but making their stamp in Conference USA. They actually play tomorrow on Tuesday. Remember, we have Tuesday games. I think there's 3 games on the slate tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. Our loser of the week, Texas. Again, they just blew it. And now I'm going to talk more. I talked about Oklahoma. I gave my props to Dylan Gabriel. I gave my props to the coaching staff and how prepared the defense was and how rock solid they were up front. At the end of the day, now it's time to talk about Texas. We knew that the defense was kind of a flaw, but I was still hyping them up. Why? Because of the defensive front. At the end of the day, it was like we didn't watch any film on OU. And not because we didn't know what play was coming, it was because we weren't prepared for the tempo. The strength of our defense is up front. The strength is because we are so deep that we're able to rotate people in and out. Coming in, there should be a game plan of when we're rotating in, when we're rotating out to get these guys a breather and still be as effective as we've been all season. What did we get instead? We got like if we never knew Oklahoma played fast, if Oklahoma played with tempo. And that's what they do. It's not like it was a change of game plan because they were facing us. That is what Oklahoma does. And we went in, and it's the commentators said it, the fans said it, analysis people said it at the beginning. They play with tempo. The first series, it was like, and here comes Oklahoma's tempo, and it seemed like the Texas coaching staff was dumbfounded by it. It was sad to see. And then okay, at that point, let's make an adjustment. No adjustments are made. Then we talked about Dylan Gabriel and how many yards rushing he had, 100 plus, 112, I want to say. We've had Anthony Hill shut down Joe Milton, Joe Milton from Alabama. We just played Kansas. Yes, their quarterback wasn't as mobile because their starting quarterback was hurt. At the end of the day, he was still able to spike quite a bit and still make an impact. We've seen Anthony Hill capable of doing so. Why not make that adjustment? And fine, you're not ready to make it during the game in that first and second quarter. That is what halftime is for. You guys got stopped and punched in the mouth. You guys couldn't respond. It was still a close game at half. It was 20-17 at half. Why wasn't there a spy placed? Why didn't we start playing tighter coverage? Because we couldn't tackle anyway. So might as well play tight coverage because we're not going to tackle anyway. So even if they catch the ball, there's going to be a big play. There was just so many non-adjustments made that it was very, very, very poor coaching. Now going to the offensive side, adjustments again. At the end of the day, Brooks still had 22 carries for 129 yards. I want to say 7 to 10 of those carries were run right up the middle, hit a front for no yards gained. Right up the middle for no yards gained. And it was like anytime it bounced out, 7-yard gain, 10-yard gain, 15-yard gain. And it didn't matter if it was Brooks, it didn't matter if it was Baxter, but then let me run it right back up the middle again. It was just sorry adjustments. Or sorry that there was no adjustments actually. And it was just a pitiful performance at the end of the day. Oklahoma was better coached. Oklahoma was more prepared. And it was just sorry to see. And then even at the end of the game, Texas, you guys shouldn't have been in a position to win. I understand that. They shouldn't have won. And that's why I accept this loss. They shouldn't have won because they weren't as prepared and they weren't as well coached. Albeit, at the end of the day, you have a chance to win. You have the chance to play the worst you've played all season. You have the chance to win. You go down and you kick a field goal. But first, you have it on 2nd and 9 and 3rd and 9. On 3rd and 9, again, Quinn Ewers had one incompletion since those first few drives in the first quarter. One incompletion and threw for 300 yards since those first few drives. And what do? You run it up the middle. Again, you run it up the middle, get stopped for a minimal gain, and you kick a field goal. Fine. As it is, I don't even trust Auburn, but he makes it, so shout out to Auburn. And then you come out on defense. Again, not expecting tempo, no communication, and playing the softest coverages I've seen. And it was like, okay, fine, we're gonna play prevent defense. What, to hold them to a field goal? Fine, let's hold them to a field goal and let's go to overtime, right? But you can't tackle. So what is the point of playing prevent defense if you can't keep them from going out of bounds and you can't prevent the long play from happening? It's just unbelievable. And then still able to scramble and not bringing any pressure for Dylan Gabriel, a man who did not play these games, that man in the second half who was kind of shut down. At that point in time, he was kind of shut down, and you put no pressure whatsoever. It was just, I mean, honestly, I blame this on the secondary, and I blame this on the coaching staff. Your team wasn't ready. And a big part of being an elite team is playing to your level every single time, not to the level of other teams. It's playing to win the game, not to be prevent. And at the end of the day, it's playing not based on we can win this game strictly off talent. It's playing to win the game convincingly. And they just didn't do it. So that's all I have to say. Texas's coaching staff blew it. Do I think they have a chance in the Big 12 championship? Absolutely. Do I think they win out the rest of the regular season? Absolutely. Texas has a great team, guys. Jonathan Brooks is proving to be the best running back in the nation at this point in time. Quinn Ewers was perfect after those few possessions in the first quarter. The defense needs to be shored up. I hadn't seen a defense like that in 2-3 years that Sam Allardyce used to have behind him. I hadn't seen that. Coaching needs to be better. The team needs to be more prepared. And I think you need to be ready to make adjustments. And there was zero made on Saturday. Other loser of the week, and I hate to say this, and I know I'm overreacting, but this is the most all-time fire coach moment, honestly. Like, first, ugly first half. You can't score on Georgia Tech. I told you guys I wasn't convinced about Tyler Van Dyke. 3 interceptions on a day. 3 points scored in the first half for these teams. 3 points scored for Miami, specifically. And that talks about a lot about A&M because they were able to score all over A&M. 3 points. Then you're coming back. You're leading. This team has no timeouts. Why are you running the ball? All the convincing you needed to do was at the beginning of the game. If you wanted to come out and blow out a team and run up the score, you were to do it at the beginning of the game. You were able to muster up 3 points. This was such a tight game that it's not like, oh, well, this might not come back and bite us in the ass. This game was on edge all night long. It was, I don't know, so they end up running the ball. Running back fumbles the ball. Georgia Tech gets it back. And then even then, they need a touchdown to win. You're playing prevent defense, and you let this man get behind you for a touchdown. It was sad to see, man. It was a pitiful performance. And what I found out after, and why I say it's an all-time fire coach decision, he's done this before. Like, he's done it before to where they fumbled the ball when he was at Oregon, when he was ranked as well, fumbles the ball, and the other team goes back, scores, and wins the game. After that, I'd be scarred for life. Actually, I would never even do it. But if I had to do it because somebody had my gun to my head and said, run the ball and let's see what happens, and then it happened, I would never do it again. And he does it again. Questionable call, especially if you do it twice. All-time fire coach moment. Kentucky, Georgia, this is just a loser mentality right here. So Georgia wins, dominating fashion. Instead of saying, let's go back to the drawing board, we can only score 13 points, giving props, this is a top nation in the team. Talk about, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's kind of like, it was like one of those benchmark games, where are we at, who are we games, and you find out that you're just not it. You're a mid-tier SEC team, you're competitive, you'll be a good bowl game to watch type of person, and maybe you pull off an upset. At the end of the day, you could have said that. Instead, you come out with your excuses, Mr. Stoops. Coach Stoops comes out and blames the fans. I mean, that blames them completely, but says if you guys want something like Georgia, donate more money because they're donating money and they're buying players, but we can't. So I need you to donate money. How about you just focus on your job? How about you focus on getting your men prepared? That's what you are as a coach, right? Develop your men. Leave the boosters to the boosters, and you focus on you. If not, say that you can't get the job done, and you can only win with big money in your pockets, and you're not worth whatever they're paying you. And if you need the money so bad, you donate your motherfucking money. Excuse my language. But that's just, I mean, it was sorry coaching and a sorry response. You guys have heard me go on rants before about people not being able to take ownership for their actions or their lack of play calling or for their lack of performance and blaming it on other people, or blaming it on refs, blaming it on other players, and just blowing it off. And we'll talk about that later on in some NFL performances. At the end of the day, Kentucky, Coach Stoops, you need to own up to this one, man. You have a great running back in Davis. You've picked up players from the portal as well. You're in the SEC. We know Kentucky has money. Why? Because it supports Calipari. Figure it out, man. That was just an all-time sad excuse and a sad response to losing this game the way you lost. And then last loser of the week, we're not going to dwell on it too much. A&M, again, top 5 roster. You're at home against a team that UT went in to Alabama. They went into Tuscaloosa and beat them. You guys are convinced that you're better than Texas. You guys are convinced that you have a better coach. You guys are convinced that you guys have better recruiting. And actually, right now, you guys have a better roster. You guys have all this NIL money coming in. And for what? To still not be ranked? To be below North Carolina? To be below Oregon State? To be below Ole Miss? To be below Missouri? Remember that team, Missouri, also went with you guys from the Big 12? You guys are losers, man. Jimbo Fisher's a loser. Until you guys get rid of him, you guys have no hope. And even when you guys get rid of him, you have no hope. You will always be a little brother, always amount to nothing. Oh, remember, Milroe couldn't throw, guys. His weakness is throwing. 320 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. How much did he have against UT? Alabama has no weapons on the outside. We're better than them. 9 catches, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns. How much did Burton have against UT? Sorry, Alabama, but that top 5 roster, you've made it into a bottom 5 roster, and recruits should really take notice of that. All right, guys, so that wraps it up for our NCAA recap. I ran a little bit long, but you guys know I like to do the NCAA recap. I'm passionate about NCAA. I had to go in a little bit more into depth about Oklahoma and Texas because at the end of the day, huge Texas fan. I love the Longhorns like more than anybody else, or just as much as anybody else, I should say. At the end of the day, when they lose, I also need to own up to it and account for it and talk about it. And I'm not going to shy away from that. That's why I want to go into that one. But I also want to go into depth on Georgia because they deserved it and all their winners and losers of the week. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our NFL Week 5 recap. So let's go ahead and jump into there. So our NFL Week 5 recap. We just ended tonight against, Packers and Raiders. It was, I mean, I don't know how many more night games we need to see to just realize that we're never going to get a good night game. Even Thursday night was a terrible night game. At the end of the day, we just had a stellar performance from Fields and from DJ Moore that made it interesting. And actually, Sam Howell played pretty well, but a lot of that was garbage time, to be honest. But this night game was just terrible. Neither offense really got anything going. The defensive lines was probably the best part from each team. Max Crosby is just an absolute force to be reckoned with, and he's not as loud and rambunctious as Michael Parsons. I love Michael Parsons. I'm partially a Cowboys fan. Today, sometimes I just wish that Michael Parsons stayed a little bit more quiet, especially when you just got dominated by the 49ers, when you got dominated by the Arizona Cardinals. Instead, you still go put your videos out there and your podcast out there, and you're still talking crap to Tyreek Hill. Focus on your game, man. I don't hear anything from Max Crosby. And Max Crosby was much more of a force tonight than you've been in the last few weeks. But yeah, Raiders win 17-13. Jordan Love just actually looked absolutely abysmal. Was it 3 interceptions? Yeah, 3 interceptions, and I mean, just missing throws late. I want to say he was like 3 for 11. on yards past 5 yards or passes past 5 yards down the field. It was just ugly, and you see a replay of the last interception of the game. I mean, Christian Watson is wide open, just blows right past the cornerback. Cornerback has his eyes in the backfield, blows right past. You'll see right here. Look, you'll see this. Look at that. He has a step. He has his hands, and he even stops running because he's like, well, fuck. And you could say, oh, well, Christian Watson needs to come running there. If he keeps running there, he runs out of bounds. Like Jordan Love messed that play up. Instead, scrambles and then throws it late, and then even floats it. Like it was just, and that was Jordan Love all day. Throwing into double coverage, it was just ugly to see. Christian Watson could have a much better game. 7 targets. I mean, one of them was really close, I will say, on deep ball. Other than that, it was just pitiful, to be completely honest with you guys. Um, yeah, it was just an ugly, ugly game. I don't know if Aaron Jones really makes up for it. I just think the Packers will be a bottom tier team, and we're seeing who Jordan Love really is. And that's something I want to say. Like in the NFL and in college football, we're starting to see the things even out. Like the scales are now balancing out, and we're saying who are the good teams, and we're seeing who are the bad teams, both in college football and in the NFL. Like it's starting to stand out. The teams that are supposed to win are winning by big margins, and when they're not, it's kind of like what is going on. We see who Clemson is. They're a mediocre, average team, and they're going to be playing close games no matter what, and they'll have that occasional blowout. That's what they did this week against Wake Forest. They played down to a level of another team, even though they have superior talent, and they barely win that game. And here in the NFL, you're seeing the same thing. Bears are actually starting to turn down, so it's kind of like, okay, are the Bears going to be competitive the rest of the year? What is going on here? We're seeing the Commanders who the Commanders are. I mean, strong defensive front, nothing really on the back end. They have Terry McLaurin, man. They have Logan Thomas. They have Brian Robinson. They have Antonio Gibson. I don't know what's wrong with the Commanders, to be completely honest. It might be quarterbacking, but even Sam Howell puts up numbers, a lot of it in garbage time. I can't really see what it is to make of Commanders other than they're not a good team. Chiefs at Vikings. I actually thought the Vikings were gonna have a better chance here. And it was a lot closer. Honestly, it could have been tied. It could have been tied if Alexander Madison doesn't drop a screen pass for an easy touchdown, and they end up tying this game. At the end of the day, I do think KC is taking care of business or doing it the way they should be doing it. Mahomes is managing games and winning games on his feet, hitting wide open wide receivers, and that's the only way he can because these wide receivers are going to make one-on-one plays. Tony isn't going to make it. I do like Rice quite a bit. I think he has a bright future. He's just not at that level yet. Sky Moore is not going to do it. Travis Kelce, I mean, he's your go-to third down player, but he's not going to be that long shot down the field. You know what I mean? So there's a lot missing on the Chiefs end. At the end of the day, their defense is really coming together. Their secondary looks awesome. You know Chris Jones does in the front. You have Willie Gay there in the back end, or in the linebacking crew. They have a really good defense, to be honest, and that was something that had been missing. That's why people were worried about them going into the Super Bowl last year, facing a competitive defensive team. Can their defense hold up against an explosive offensive team? We saw that it could in the Super Bowl, and it's continuing here. So the Chiefs advanced to 4-1, Vikings to 1-4, and now Justin Jefferson's more likely missing week 6. I don't know. We can see if just what happens going into the trade deadline. To be completely honest, like we don't know if they're ever going to re-sign Kirk Cousins. I don't think they ever will. Do they look at moving him? Like, and if that happens, who else becomes like a trade target? To be completely honest, because they have a lot of potential, they just never could put it together. And now they're losing those one-score games that they were winning the year before. 49ers and Cowboys. I'm only going to focus. I mean, shout out to the 49ers. They're a really good team. I think they're the best team in the NFL right now, to be completely honest. Strong on the defensive end, have great linebackers, have a great defensive front that's just getting better. Randy Gregory. They have Tre'Davious Ward from the Kansas City Chiefs a couple of years back, who's awesome in one-on-one coverage. They're a complete team on the defensive end and on the offensive end. Unlimited weapons. They don't have that tall, down-the-field guy. At the end of the day, Ayuk is one of the best man-on-man wide receivers, and I'll talk about that shortly. But then you have George Kittle at tight end, who seems like he just plays in big games, kind of like Big Game Davis with the Bills. George Kittle just shows up to play in big games and play against the Cowboys, and he just showed out again. He hadn't scored a touchdown all season, then scores 3 there. But yeah, they're just awesome. They have, of course, Christian McCaffrey, and then I honestly think Brock Purdy is and should be in the MVP conversation. Another 4 touchdowns today, just super efficient, does not put his team in any trouble. And I don't even think he's a game manager anymore, to be completely honest with you guys. I think he's a good quarterback. and we need to stop acting like he's not. Cowboys, though, again, get punched in the mouth. And again, you ask Dak Prescott to step up for you guys. Guys, it was 21-7. It wasn't a blowout. It wasn't. It was a two-score game. And at one point, it was 21-10. And then Dak Prescott just throws the game away. And then he has a fucking smirk on his face. Like, at what point is enough enough? At what point are you going to say we will not win with this guy? And it doesn't matter of, well, he's the best thing that's out there and the best thing we got. Okay, then, let's go ahead and just rebuild. Like, what's the point of staying 10-7 now that there's more games? What's the point of staying 11-6? What's the point? And then being a first round exit or a division round exit. You guys are the Cowboys. You guys are the most valuable franchise in the world. And you guys haven't been to a championship game since I was born. And we're still settling for this mediocre crap. And then you still have people saying, oh, well, this is not on Dak. It is. At the end of the day, you can only expect so much from the defense. And I was critical about the defense. And I was saying it to my girlfriend Sarah when we were watching the game. I get that you need to stay who you are and you can't let other people change who you are. But this team has curb stomped you 2 years straight. Out physical you to the point of attack, run the ball down your throat, just run crossing patterns and you couldn't tackle them, and then just bull rushed you on the defensive end. And you guys need to make an adjustment. I get you can't do it on a weekly basis. You need to be who you are, and that's why you're successful. When a team has beaten you when you're playing who you are twice in a row, twice in the playoffs, you need to change it up. We just talked about Brandon Ayuk being one of the best against man-on-man coverage, yet you play man-to-man coverage again. Your linebackers cannot compete against Christian McCaffrey. You play man-to-man coverage again. Deebo Samuel always hits those crossing patterns, and he runs for 20 extra yards afterwards because you guys can't tackle him one-on-one. But you run man-to-man coverage again. George Kittle does not do anything against anybody else, but he matches up against your safeties, and then man-to-man again. Like, you have to make an adjustment, and you just don't. And this is what you deserve. And then when you have Dak at quarterback, doesn't make it any better. And I was critical about the defense because of the man-to-man coverage. At the end of the day, they held up like 21 points. I get it. At the end of the day, it was a short field because of the fumble by Tony Pollard, who has not been who they thought it was going to be. They need to start looking for another running back because he's obviously a complimentary back. He's not a star back. So that happens there. That's a touchdown there. At the end of the day, it could have been 14-7, and this game is over. So the Diamondbacks now lead the best out of 5 series 2-0. Remember, I talked about this last week on the news story. We broke down the playoff bracket. Dodgers do not have any pitching, and it's showing. And that long layoff has been showing that it's been hurtful to the teams that had the bye week, just having that long layoff, because the bats just haven't been there. We saw it with the Baltimore Orioles, who are now down 2-0 against the... Well, we'll go over that later. Sorry. We'll go over that later. At the end of the day, 49ers just absolutely stomped them. Dak with this stupid smirk. Again, take ownership for your crap. Last week, you were all high and mighty against the press and saying, oh, thank you for reminding me. Oh, that pissed me off. Oh, I'm going to remember that going into next week. Thank you for getting me ready. Thank you. Ready for what, bro? They even brought in their subs, and your coach leaves you in because he wants to give you some stat pads so nobody realizes just how bad you really fucking played. And then you throw another interception. You are god awful. And since people have a problem with commentators saying it, I'll say it. You are god awful. You're the worst quarterback. I said it when they were about to pay you. That would have been a huge mistake, and it's showing now. And the Cowboys have a real problem in their hands until they get rid of Dak. Jaguars are Bills. This was the London game. There was a lot of talk about the Bills and their travel plans. They flew in, I want to say Thursday night or Thursday throughout the day. Then they ended up staying all day. They ended up staying all day Friday, awake all day Friday, slept through the night, slept like on Saturday, then woke up for their game on Sunday. I don't know. It was just weird, and you could tell that they were sleepwalking through the first half. And there was a lot of talk about it. I know Party My Take podcast. I apologize. Talked about it a lot, and I just came back to haunt them. They played an awesome second half. Josh Allen again was awesome. hasn't been the Josh Allen that we saw in week 1. He's just been absolutely phenomenal. But it just wasn't enough. A little too late there. And credit to the Jaguars, they held him off. Travis Etienne played the best game that he's played this year. Calvin Ridley finally showed up ever since week 1. But Trevor Lawrence still leaves a lot of questions, man. A lot of questionable decisions, a lot of questionable throws. But at the end of the day, they hold them off. So shout out to the Jaguars holding it off in the international series. Falcons beat Texans 21-19. Lions beat the Panthers. Lions were missing quite a bit of players, and they still blow out the Panthers, and pretty convincingly, to be completely honest. I think the Lions are for real. Like, they are a complete team. If you're able to overcome injuries like that, that's a shout out to you guys. We just talked about it with the Cowboys against Arizona a few weeks back. Like, oh, it's because they had 3 injuries on the offensive front, this and that. That's why they couldn't pull it off. It's a fluky win. At the end of the day, like, Lions could use that excuse, and they're not. They absolutely go in and curb stomp the Panthers. All credit to the Lions. Colts, Anthony Richardson, man. I know they win. I'm glad Zach Moss absolutely dominating. It's going to be hard for Jonathan Taylor to have the role that he used to have, just because I think you have to split carries with Zach Moss. He's been effective. He's broken up big runs. He's been carrying this team throughout the beginning part of the season. They're now 3-2, up there with the Texans, right? No, the Texans are even below them. So I want to say the Colts are the Colts are tied with the Jaguars for this division. Like, and who would have thought that, right? Going into the season. The only bad part about this is Anthony Richardson, man. He's injury prone. He was injury prone in high school. He was injury prone in college. He's injury prone now. I just don't think it's going to pan out. An awesome talent. Awesome to see when he plays. Doesn't seem like he's going to play very often. Dolphins and Giants. Giants are still abysmal. Giants are still terrible. Daniel Jones sucks. Similar to Dak Prescott. You should have paid him that money. Now you're in a huge hole because of it. And Dolphins just absolutely electric. Very, very fast. All around the field. A-Chain, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle got into the action this week. They're just a very fun team to watch. I love tuning into them every Sunday, not just because Tua is my quarterback and A-Chain's my running back. It's just an awesome team to watch, and it's very entertaining. It was entertaining again watching Tyreek just run all over the field. Saints at Patriots. Patriots, you're all-time bad. Belichick, I get what he's done, and it sounds stupid to say, and I know it's just not feasible. He needs to be on the hot seat. Like, you're below 500 since Tom Brady left. I'm not saying that it was all Tom Brady when he was there, but maybe your time has also come. And Mac Jones and his close sources saying, no matter how good the cook is, sometimes if the food that you're working with, whatever the hell it said, pretty much saying, no matter how good you are at quarterback, if you don't have the weapons around you, you're not gonna be good. I get you don't have weapons. At the end of the day, you're not this bad. Ramondre Stevenson was awesome last year. We thought he was gonna be awesome in a fantasy relevant this year. Mac Jones is just terrible. Mac Jones benched again this game. First, they suffered their biggest loss by 35 points last week against the Cowboys, who we know are probably not for real either. And then now they lose 34-0 for the second worst loss for Bill Belichick to the Saints. They make the Saints offense look like they were world beaters, like they were the Chiefs, like they were the Bengals, the Eagles. It's the Saints who couldn't score against the Buccaneers last week. Like, it was, I don't know, terrible to see. Ravens at Steelers. Ravens absolutely blow this game. Lamar isn't Lamar. Lamar is, I guess, who we thought Lamar was. It seems like all these people are getting paid, and there was questions about, well, we don't know if we want to pay them that much because there is holes in their game. They need people to support them. But if we pay them, we can't get those people. You should have listened to yourselves. Lamar is another case of this one. You brought in all of these weapons. He's not doing anything with them other than turning over the ball. We had a fumble, an interception. There's that safety, just horrible mismanagement of the game. TJ Watt and the Steelers defense take over at the end. It was just a bad performance, bad game management, and Lamar Jackson's at the front of that. Shout out to the Steelers pulling out another tight victory. Steelers aren't for real, and we'll talk about the Bengals shortly. The AFC North looks weak. They look like very physical teams that are very bad. Eagles at Rams. Eagles win 23-14. This was actually a pretty exciting game. I know it wasn't as high scoring as you'd think for an exciting game, but the teams were moving the ball quite effectively. At the end of the day, there was turnovers. At the end of the day, the Rams only put up 14, but it was awesome to see Cooper Kupp back. There was questions about Nakua and him coexisting. They were able to coexist quite easily. What is on True TV? Well, the original Jokers. Um, but yeah, they're able to coexist quite easily, and it was awesome to see. But Eagles, at the end of the day, still the Eagles are little by little looking like the Eagles from last year. I still think they're second fiddle to the 49ers in the NFC. But they look good against the Rams. They pull off the victory on the road. At the end of the day, anybody facing the Rams, it's kind of a home victory there too. But yeah, Eagles win there. More tush pushes. AJ Brown again shows out. Jalen Hurts looks okay. And they win 23-14. There was a very scary moment that when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, I think he just tore something. Like Jalen Hurts was like scrambling. He like sticks his foot in the turf, and you could see like it looked like a hyperextension. His leg like straightens out, and he just runs for 5 more yards. I mean, all of that squatting, all of that physicality he has obviously puts in work there. I think that's any other quarterback in the league scrambling, and that's a blown up knee for sure. So I think the Eagles get away with that one. It looked scary on TV, and I couldn't believe that he just didn't even hobble or limp after that. Bengals at Cardinals. I think the Bengals are back, guys. This was the healthiest we've seen Joe Burrow. This was Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase all day long. Nobody was able to stop it. It was just awesome to see, to be completely honest. It was good to see for them. Joe Burrow's good for the league at the end of the day. One of the elite quarterbacks when he's ready and healthy, and he showed to be this week. He was able to scramble. He was able to run for gains. He was able to hit the deep passes, and that's why we see Jamar Chase get affected. I think Jamar Chase was targeted 19 times, 15 catches, almost 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And all that game, I'm glad I had him on fantasy, and we'll talk about him on our fantasy breakout performers. Jets at Broncos, a Nathaniel Hackett game, as other people were calling it. Broncos are just bad. Russell Wilson's just bad. Russell Wilson, similar to Dak Prescott, you never hear him take ownership. You hear him when they win. You hear him when they're talking good about them. Then he just completely disappears. He blew that game. They needed a field goal. That's not Sean Payton's fault. They needed a field goal, and he fumbles the ball away instead of throwing it away. And you hear Sean Payton telling him why he couldn't just throw the ball away, and he just walks away from him. Russell Wilson just needs to go. Russell Wilson needs to go play Canadian football. He needs to go be his unlimited self somewhere else. And we already talked about this Packers-Raiders game. But that concludes week 5, guys. It was an awesome week 5. Some very good games, some very poor games, and some honestly eye-opening performances. And I think the Ravens are one of them. The Bengals being for real, and I think the Bengals are now favored again of the AFC North. Very slow start, starting off 1-3. Joe Burrow isn't healthy, but he's healthy now. They have one more game before the bye week. Then they have the bye week. Then they have 49ers after. That's going to be a huge test, but I think Joe Burrow is finally healthy there. And we've seen the Bengals when he's healthy and when they always start slow no matter what, even without the injury the last 2 years. Now he had an injury, so it was just like exemplified and emphasized. Now we've seen what they do down the stretch. They're going to be a scary team to mess around with, and I think they run away with this AFC North because the Ravens aren't good, the Steelers aren't good, and I don't think the Cleveland Browns are very good either. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and move on to the MLB playoff update. We'll go pretty quickly through these guys because we have taken quite a bit of time on everything else. So we did talk about the Rays and Rangers. I did think the Rangers were going to move on after that first performance of the Rays, and they do. They end up winning against the Rays. It's now Orioles versus the Rangers. Over the weekend, though, Rangers go up 2-0 while at Baltimore. They just looked awesome with their bats. Their pitching dominated once again. The rust is real for the Orioles. They haven't been able to get anything going. One of the best hitting teams that we had all season. It wasn't just all about power. It was about running bases. It was about constant hitting. It was about hitting in timely situations, playing small ball. They just haven't been able to do it, and their pitching staff looks shaky as it is as well. They're down 2-0, and I can definitely see the Rangers sweeping this and going to the ALCS. We have the Twins beating the Blue Jays. Blue Jays just looked like they had no fight. They should have just stayed home and just let the Twins and Astros start. I thought this would be an easy series for the Astros because I'm not convinced on the Twins either. Twins are very unreliable on the offensive end. Some great pitching, and Pablo Lopez showed out the other game. But I just sent in Twins that were very good. Astros jumped out to an early lead in game 1. I thought that's how the rest of the series was going to go. The Twins fight back in game 1 but fall short. Then Pablo Lopez absolutely dominates the Astros last night, and they've opened up they're now 1-1 heading back to Minnesota. It's going to be a pretty good series. I just trust the pedigree and the experience of the Astros a little bit more. That Alex Bregman and Yordan Alvarez has been pretty good. I think it's Alex Bregman needs to get started going a little bit more. Kyle Tucker needs to get started going a little bit more. And they need to stop playing Maldonado. I get what he offers on the defensive end. He's just not good. when you have a 290 hitter as his backup. Like, he needs to be in the lineup every single game. There's no reason he should be backing him up. That's just my honest opinion. You had the Phillies beat the Marlins pretty much with no fight. Now you had Braves at Phillies. I told you guys I thought this was going to be the upset. This tonight they were so close to going up 2-0. So close. And they blow it at the end. Zach Wheeler pitched his heart out. You could tell he was getting tired. He walked the batter. At that point, it's kind of like, let's get him out. No, you're not. Okay, fine. He lets up a hit. At that point, it's like, now the no-hitter's gone. He's already walked somebody. He just let up a hard hit. Trey Turner, 2 errors on the game. He lets up an error, which leads to the first run of the game. At that point, it's like, okay, so you lost the error because he doesn't have the no-hitter. Now he doesn't have the shutout. At that point, it's like, get him out. And then an Austin Riley home run. I think it was mismanagement, to be completely honest. No, it was actually d'Arnaud at that point, right? d'Arnaud was there. And then they bring in relievers. And honestly, when that reliever came in, I knew Alvarado was shut down, but the other guy just looked off from the very beginning. And then Riley comes up to the plate and hits a home run. And it was questionable. The Braves couldn't hit a fastball, but the Riley couldn't hit a fastball. He had shucken out twice, I want to say, on a high heat. You have him at 1-2, then 2-2, then 3-2, and you throw a slider after you've been speeding up his bat that he hasn't been able to catch up. Throw him a fastball or a slider to speed up his bat, and he just takes you out of the park. Questionable decision making, questionable pitch calls, questionable managerial changes, and the Phillies drop it. Now they're 1-1 heading to Philly. All hope isn't lost though, but it definitely feels like the Astros and the Mariners a couple of years back, when the Mariners had that lead and they blow it. Like, it just deflates you a little bit, and I think that wakes up the Braves bats, and the Braves bats are another animal, to be completely honest. It's gonna be scary, but playing in Philly is gonna be awesome. Those 2 games there in Philly. Let's see if they can bring it back to Atlanta. If not, let's see who closes it out in Philly. Then Diamondbacks Dodgers, we just saw that game go final. I told you guys again, Dodgers had no pitching and showing. They just absolutely hammered Clayton Kershaw. And I think that's because of the pressure Clayton Kershaw felt of, like, I need to shut this team down and I need to win game 1, because who knows if we win another game. They don't win game 1. They get absolutely smashed in the first inning and never look back. And then in this game, again, inning number 1, I think it was 3 runs in the first. And Diamondbacks ended up winning 4-2. Now they have a commanding lead going into Arizona. I don't think it's a huge home field advantage. At the end of the day, Arizona has better pitching, and their bats look a lot better. The Dodgers are also suffering from a little bit of rust. So we have some pretty good playoff matchups going on, some not good playoff matchups going on, but at the end of the day, it's an exciting playoffs. It was an awesome game from the Braves and Phillies, even the way it closed out with that double play. So yeah, pretty good games all around. All right, now hockey season eve. Just wanted to show you guys. So it is the beginning of hockey season. Like I said, October is the best month for sports. Hockey is the next sport to get started, and that starts tomorrow night, guys. Tomorrow night we have the Predators at Lightning, we have the Blackhawks at the Penguins, and then we have the Kraken at the Golden Knights. It's the start of hockey season, guys. Not the biggest into hockey. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, oh yeah, I've always been a big fan. At the end of the day, I started getting into it recently. I think it was more like around when COVID was, and they came back after COVID. That's when I started really getting into it. My parents always said, like, oh, you have to go watch hockey live to really enjoy it. I got to see my first hockey game, and nonetheless, it was a playoff game between the Oilers and the Kings last year in LA. I was out there for a conference, and it was just awesome. Connor McDavid, first of all, fastest human alive, it seemed. Skiing down that ice like he's just on another level, on another planet. But at the end of the day, it made me a fan. It was just, the atmosphere was electric. The way the game flows is electric. Constant action, constant hitting, constant speed. It was just an awesome, awesome game to see. It was overtime for that matter. So I think my expectations were even heightened. That's unfair, but at the end of the day, hockey is a very interesting sport, to be completely honest, and I'm interested to get into it even more this year. But yeah, some three excellent games. A nugget here for anybody that doesn't know: NHL is actually going to start doing kind of like what the NFL does for Red Zone, and pretty much have like all games going on and be flipping back and forth on their own broadcast on ESPN. So that's pretty cool and something to look out forward to. I want to say it starts till the end of the month though, like one of those huge slate of games where they'll have that broadcast up and running. So keep an eye out for that. But that seems like a cool new addition, and I think all sports are going to start tending in that direction, to be honest, because it's been so successful for the NFL. All right. Now, Paris Olympics. I just want to touch on this one really quickly. I think it's great that other players are starting to like, hey, I want to go try out for the Olympic. I want to be there for the Olympics. I want to be out there to support our team. I want to go win a gold for our nation. You have LeBron coming up. You have AD. You have Kawhi, and then now even Joel Embiid's not willing to go with the French team. Now he wants to come with the U.S. team. It's an awesome time to look forward to. KD is another one. At the end of the day, I hope these players start playing for their teams rather than focusing on playing on the summer. In the summer, I apologize. Like at the end of the day, we've seen Kawhi miss games. We've seen LeBron miss games. We've seen AD miss games, for God's sakes. Um, I hope they can focus on playing and that doesn't take away from what they're supposed to do. I hope the midseason tournament for the NBA is good, but I am glad that we're going to have some potential good stars going back to the USA team because we've been missing that for a couple of years. We definitely sent our B team, if not our C team, this past year. Um, and we're competitive. I can imagine what we can do with our stars of the game, right? Going out there and playing. But I think it's an exciting time. I hope the U.S. brings home some gold. And at the end of the day, this is time for me to shout out Simone Biles, the best gymnast of all time, I'm going to say. I mean, at least in my generation, just world title after world title. And now she's more than likely on her way to the Olympics. I would at least hope for the U.S. sake. She's just amazing to see. I don't know much about gymnastics. Then they being able to see her and her quality of work, it's just something beautiful, even though you don't fully understand it. And I don't know if you guys know that feeling, but it's kind of like watching Messi play soccer. If you're not a soccer fan, it's like watching. I mean, the Golden State Warriors back when they were just starting up. The way they passed that ball, the way they flowed without the ball, the way they played defense, the way they shot the ball and just revolutionized the game. There's things that even if you don't fully understand the game, you understand the beauty, you understand the talent, you understand the hard work that goes into it. So Simone Biles, all credit to you. You are the GOAT. You are amazing. And I hope you are out there in Paris for the U.S. team and you bring home some more gold for us as well. And then other than that, guys, fantasy performers of the week. I'm gonna give it to three players. I'm gonna give it to DJ Moore for sure. That's number one. I have to go Jamar Chase. As number two, 15 catches, 192 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And then you also had DJ Moore, 8 catches, 230 yards, 3 touchdowns. The other person I would think about is I'm gonna say Zach Moss, guys. There's quite a bit. You can do Tyreek Hill, you can do David Montgomery again, you can do Travis Etienne. He probably had the best game of his career or of his season so far. I'm gonna go with Zach Moss just because of how close this game was, how important he's been to the Colts and how much little recognition he hasn't got because everybody's been waiting for Jonathan Taylor to come back. And even Jonathan Taylor comes back this week and Zach Moss puts on a performance. And even Jonathan Taylor at the end saying like how excited he is to be able to coexist with Zach Moss. Zach Moss has been a revelation. He deserves all the praise. He's been absolutely amazing. 23 carries, 165 yards, rushing, 2 touchdowns, and carries the Colts to a victory with Anthony Richardson going out with an injury. Zach Moss has been awesome, and there's nothing left to say that. But honorable mentions, you have Travis Etienne, who helped close out that game against the Bills, was absolutely vital. You had George Kittle again, 3 touchdowns. Brock Purdy, 4 touchdowns on the game, on the week. Who else can we talk about here? AJ Brown again, just putting up great numbers. Joe Burrow is back to being Joe Burrow, in my opinion, 300 yards and passing, 3 touchdowns. And A-Chain every single week. Hopefully his injury is not too serious. It looked like a rolled ankle. Now it looks like they're reporting a knee. He's undergoing evaluations. So hopefully it's something too bad. And then Adam Thielen is just coming back to relevancy with the Carolina Panthers. A lot of it coming in garbage time at the end of the day. He's been looking phenomenal. Back to that season where like he was up there with the top catchers of the league, receiving top receptions in the league. And he looks great there and a great veteran presence for the Panthers. So, but our top three performers of the week: DJ Moore, Jamar Chase, and I'm going to give the last spot. You can pretty much give it to anybody, but I'm going to give it to Zach Moss. All right, guys, with that being said, that wraps up our world of sports for the week, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is something that we're going to be doing every week. Again, we'll probably be doing it like Sunday nights or Monday nights so we can recap. My apologies. We can recap the college football week, the NFL week, and then just look forward and recap any other news from the week. All right, guys. But I hope you guys enjoyed our winners and losers segment. I hope you guys enjoyed the weekend of college football. I hope you guys are enjoying the MLB playoffs, and we have a lot of different sports to look forward to with hockey and basketball starting up soon, guys. Beautiful time to be alive. I know there's other crappy things going on in the world, and that's why I want to bring this type of content out. It's distracting, and sometimes distraction. I mean, that's a pretty bad word for it, but at the end of the day, it's a good thing to just have sports to bring it all together. Something that we all look forward to watching on the weekends, watching on weeknights. It's a beautiful time. Again, guys, we have amazing athletes to watch that have blessed us. And at the end of the day, you could just keep everything else in your prayers and your thoughts. But with that being said, guys, thank you guys very much for the support. Please, again, be sure to like this video, subscribe, share it with your friends and family. If you guys would like to collaborate, please feel free to join me, guys. Please DM me, please message me, comment, whatever you guys want to do. But again, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, ZT Fully Loaded. Like, retweet, comment, subscribe. All of the support is truly, truly appreciated. We have another big week in sports this week with MLB, with college football all week long. So I hope you guys enjoy, guys. Have a good one. Be safe. Have a good night. Love you guys.